Are you thinking about moving to Sarasota, Florida, but you're not quite sure if it's the city for you?
Well, there's a lot of great alternatives really close to Sarasota, and these are 5 of the best in the area.
The first one is North Venice. North Venice is a great alternative if you want to be in Sarasota but aren't quite sure that you want to live in the city. Just because North Venice is the closest you can get to Sarasota, well, outside of like Osprey and Laurel. But being in Venice, you're in a small community, you're close to the beach, and only 25 to 35 minutes away from Sarasota, depending on traffic.
Yeah, this area is really exciting too because there's a lot of new construction communities, almost a master plan thing going on without quite being master plan, but there's a lot of new construction communities all really close to each other. And then, like she said, it puts you close to Venice as well. So you get access to all the awesome things that Venice has to offer. Our beaches are much different with the shark's teeth and the seashells and the quaint downtown. And you're really close to like Nokomis Beach too, which I think is like one of the most underrated beaches in all of Sarasota County because you get the seashells, you get the jetty, some restaurants and things like that there, and a whole lot more. It's a great beach.
Some of the communities in North Venice are Toscana Isles, which is one of my favorite communities.
Me too.
It's just a beautiful community. This is a gated community, and once you're driving through that gate, you're greeted by this beautiful water fountain and then the lakes right behind it. You'll see all the Spanish architecture right away, the clubhouses to the right. So it's a beautiful community, and you actually are able to kayak in these lakes if you are up for that. There's also Venice Woodlands, which is also a gated community. It doesn't have as many of the amenities as Toscana Isles has, but it's also a great community.
Also a good alternative if you maybe don't want to hire HOA, you know. Yes. I think it's something always to consider. Some people want it, some people don't. So
yes, if you want to be part of an HOA community but don't need all the bells and whistles, because Venice really has it all, those are great alternatives. There's also Aria and other communities, brand new communities that are coming to that area. So if you're interested in learning more about those communities, make sure to call, text, or email us 941-221-1897.
And also we're going to throw Venice itself in with number 1, North Venice, because Venice itself does have a lot of opportunities as well. Not as much new construction unless you're in that North Venice area, but Venice itself, as we mentioned, has its beaches, its downtown, the splash pad, the jetty, the fishing pier. There's so much going on in Venice, and there's communities everywhere.
Venice doesn't have a lot of new construction going on, but the south end of Venice does. A lot of people look at Venice and South Venice as 2 different cities, but to us it's one and the same. They're just really close together. It's really not much difference unless you're like on the island. Then there is a clear difference because you have to go across the bridge, but there is not as much new construction going on in South Venice, but you can get lucky and find some unscattered lots. Some of the communities in Venice are Jacaranda Heights, a lot of Jacaranda Heights, Jacaranda
West. I think there's an East. I'm trying to think. There's like, yeah, there's like 4 or 5 Jacarandas. And Jacaranda Heights is funny because like Florida's got such low sea level and there's nothing elevated about it, but
it's, yeah, the name is kind of funny. There's Chestnut Creek, which is a beautiful community with canopy trees. There's also Plantation, which has a golf course. So if you're into golfing, this would be a great community for you.
Also, I think a nice thing about Plantation is there's a variety of living options there too. They've got the townhomes and villas, condos. So,
single family homes.
Yeah, good variety there.
And you're not very far from the closest beach, which would be Minnesota Key Beach.
Yeah, and really anywhere in Venice. I mean, max you're probably looking 20-minute drive. More realistically, most communities 10-15-minute drive, maybe 5.
And then Venice Island, which Venice Island again doesn't have a lot of new construction going on. You can find scatter homes here and there, but it's very rare.
Yes.
Yes. And there's not as many communities on the island. So if you want to be part of an HOA community, this might be a little bit trickier just because you're not, I mean, there are some, but you're not going to find as many opportunities there.
Yeah, and the homes there are generally going to be older because, like she said, there's no new construction. That's like the spot. It's probably the most desirable spot, but you are going to have an older home that might need some updating, or maybe, you know, if it is updated, you're going to pay a pretty penny for it probably because of the location, being close to the jetty, the beach, the downtown, and pretty much all the favorite things to do in Venice.
Yes, and there is a lot of different options here as well. We have condos, villas, townhomes, single family homes.
Everything.
Yes.
Mobile homes.
Mobile homes.
The second best place to live outside of Sarasota is another new construction community. And this one is master planned, and it's Welland Park. There's another big one that we're going to talk about too. It's probably, it like makes Welland Park look small, but Welland Park is new, exciting. The downtown just opened recently. And I think that alone is starting to draw a lot more attention to the area because there's more stuff to do there now.
Lately, we've been going to Welland Park like even before the downtown opened because we wanted to keep tabs on it. And we started going once the downtown opened. There was like a little, you know, like not as many people there. And as we started going every week, like you can definitely see the difference from when it had recently opened and now, like the word's getting out. People know
Even
about Welland Park.
I would say just in the last 3 months.
Yes.
Like literally went from like, okay, there's occasionally people there to like now a lot of times we're like, what's going on?
Yes.
And there's really not always a big event. I mean, sometimes there's an event, but sometimes there's not. There's just a lot of people there hanging out now.
Yes, and it's not like because of the season changing and snowbirds being here, because this happened before the season started here in Venice. So it's crazy that people are finding out about it. People are actually hanging out, going to the coffee shop, going to the restaurants.
Oak and Stone opening, I think, made a big difference.
Yes,
I think that's like the spot. After we went there, I can see why.
Yes. An interesting thing about Welland Park is that it does have older communities like Gran Paradiso, the Renaissance, which Renaissance is building more. So there is older resale homes and new homes. Boca Royale, which it's also an older community, but they're also building more. And Sarasota National as well.
That's a tricky name.
Sarasota National.
Because it makes you think it's in Sarasota, but it's kind of like
Yes.
in between Venice and like the Welland Park area, even though it's part of Welland Park.
And Sarasota National is like the closest community to Venice that is in Welland Park. And then some of the newer communities are the Welland Park Golf and Country Club, which if you're into golfing, this would be a great community for you. There's also some HOA communities that are a little bit lower. If you're in a golf and country club, you're going to pay a lot more to be part of that community. But those communities are Antigua, Solstice, Sunstone.
Wisteria. There's more.
There is a lot more that we're not thinking of.
Yeah. And there's a lot of variety of builders too. So, different, high end, maybe not quite as high end. You want, more bells and whistles and a higher HOA. You've got that. There's lower HOA ones.
Spec homes, which basically means that the builder starts building the home. You can purchase it, but you're only allowed to make small changes, and some you're not allowed to make any changes, but you'll know what you're buying because they'll show you what you're buying.
Yeah. And navigating, I think, all that process of trying to figure out, what builder's right for you, what community, what's going to have the bells and whistles that you do or don't want is, tough. And that's why a good realtor can help you out. So as always, call, text, or email our team, 941-221-1897.
The great part about the Welland Park community is that they're trying to focus on the active lifestyle. So whether you're young or older, they are trying to provide you with different activities that you can do. For example, there is the trails around the lake that you can take. They do have bike rentals, scooter rentals,
Kayaks,
if you want to go in the Welland Park Lake.
And there's a lot of trails like throughout certain communities like Island Walk. They have lots of trails within the community.
Dog parks.
Grand Palm as well, I believe, has a lot of trails. So, there's certain communities too that can kind of fit the bill for that.
And the cool thing about Grand Palm is that they actually have a little island that they built. So they built the homes around so that you can go there and actually fish, which not a lot of communities allow that. So that's pretty cool. Welland Park has a lot of different home options. You have single family homes, villas, townhomes, condos, which are getting built, apartments, which is not as common in the Venice area, but this is pretty cool because a lot of people, they don't want to buy, they want to rent, and being in the downtown, walkable to the coffee shops and restaurants and the trails, it's pretty cool too.
It's a prime location. It's pretty enticing, even though I think us we prefer being homeowners, and we always think for most people it's probably the way to go so you can get equity. But where those apartments are located does make it, make you want to consider it at least.
Yeah, just for the lifestyle mainly. I think if they were condos or villas, maybe it would be even better, but.
And there are a few villas right in that area too that are available. So I guess there's a few options, but there's not many of them. I'm sure they're going to sell fast.
Yes.
And Welland Park's probably got about another 10 to 15 years of development and building going on yet. So right now they're doing phase 2 of the downtown. So phase 1 is looking pretty great. There's quite a bit to do, but there's a lot more coming. Going to be a lot more shopping, a lot more things to do, and a lot more building going on with the communities as well. And I think once it's all said and done, the home values are going to appreciate a lot. So probably the best time to get in would be now while prices are as affordable as they're probably going to be. I guess we'll see. You never know how what the future holds, but if I had to guess based on the way things are going with this community, once it's all said and done and the Costco comes to the area and all the other stuff, the schools, there's building an entirely new high school. Once all that comes, prices are probably going to go up quite a bit. So now would probably be the best time if you are considering the Welland Park area.
The third community that should be on your radar is Lakewood Ranch. Welland Park and Lakewood Ranch are pretty similar because they are both master planned communities. Lakewood Ranch has two downtowns. One's the older downtown, which is still pretty cool. There is a little mini golf there, a movie theater,
whole bunch of shops and restaurants.
Restaurants, yes.
Fitness centers. There's a lot, really.
And it's very walkable too.
Yeah.
It's a small area, but it's pretty walkable, and they have a lot, of different restaurants to pick from. The other downtown, Waterside Place, actually reminds me a lot of Welland Park.
Yeah.
They look pretty similar.
Pretty similar. A little more gray tones, I would say, in Waterside Place. And they have that nice little bridge going over that little lake, and then the fitness equipment along the trail. I like that downtown a lot.
And they will have a water taxi, which will take you from the communities to the downtown area. So that would be pretty cool to do, just cross the lake, don't have to worry about driving. And there is a lot of different restaurants that have bar style restaurants too. So that's pretty cool to take a taxi and go back home at the end of the night.
Not have to worry about drinking and driving or, being irresponsible. Yes. They got you covered.
Yes. And just like Welland Park, they do have a lot of apartments. So that is very, very cool because you can walk from your apartment. If you don't want to purchase a home, you can walk from your apartment to experience all of the amenities. They also have fitness equipment around the lake, which is pretty cool. So you could take a walk and also get some exercising in. Much
like Welland Park, there's a whole bunch of different communities to choose from, but even more, you've got Lakewood Ranch Golf and Country Club, Greenbrook, Waterside, Indigo, Esplanade, Crestwind, Lorraine Lakes, and a whole bunch more. But again, if you want to know more details about what community would be a good fit for you, whether you want lots of HOA options and amenities or very few, get a hold of us and we'll help you out.
Lakewood Ranch is more inland. It's between Sarasota and Bradenton. So you're about 25 minutes away from Siesta Key, depending on which community. Lakewood Ranch is a big area.
Yeah, if you're further inland, it's probably more than that.
There is a lot of great amenities as well. You're close to the UTC Mall and UTC Shopping Center, which has a lot of shopping. A new Trader Joe's that just went in. There is a lot of different food options. Healthy Fresh Kitchen, which is one of our favorites.
We love that place.
Yes. And there's always new restaurants popping up, as well as all the shopping like TJ Maxx. There's a Nordstrom's Rack, Marshall's.
Oh, and one of the most important restaurants to me.
Fresh Kitchen.
Well, that one too, but Cheesecake Factory in the mall. Yes. We never get out there enough, but yeah, Cheesecake Factory's there too, so that's a good one to have.
In the parking lot of the UTC Mall, back parking lot, there is always events too going on. There has been food truck event. During the fall, there was a little pumpkin patch festival that they had. Just a lot of different activities throughout the year to bring the community together.
And locationally, I think this is really amazing because it puts you so close to, downtown Sarasota, pretty close to the beach yet, but also very close to Bradenton, a little bit, further north, so you're also a little bit closer to Tampa. And just gives you a lot of different options for different places to go while still having kind of that suburban utopia. It's as suburban utopia as it gets, I think, on that end of things, as far as just, everything being well manicured and lots of sidewalks, and kind of like Welland Park, there's a lot of trails and stuff to walk. So it's a really pleasant area to call home.
The next area is Englewood. Englewood, it's a great, quaint, small beach town. And it is about 30-40 minutes of a drive from Sarasota. So it is a little bit farther than the other areas that we mentioned, but it is a great small town. And if you want to be close to the beach, but maybe the budget doesn't allow it in Sarasota, Englewood, it's a great choice.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note, we talked about North Venice and Venice before, that's also going to be a little bit lower priced than say living in actual Sarasota, and then Englewood's going to be even cheaper yet, but you're still in a beach town. If that beach access is important to you, then you can get it at a much more affordable price than in Sarasota.
Yes, and Englewood has a lot of different options as well. New construction in scattered lots. There is some HOA communities, but not as much new construction within HOA communities going on. Those are pretty much built out. But if you're not looking into being part of an HOA and do want a new construction home, then you would find in scattered lots.
Yeah, I think if you want new construction without the HOA and close to the beach, Englewood's one of the best options in all of Florida, especially if you really like the Gulf Coast area or want to be near Sarasota and near some of the bigger cities but not pay those prices. Englewood's pretty prime for that, I think.
And Englewood does have a lot of single-family homes, mobile homes, and there is a limited amount of condos and townhomes.
Also a fair amount of villas, too, in some of the more established gated communities.
Englewood feels like a much smaller town, even smaller than Venice, much more smaller than Sarasota. So if you want to be in a quiet community Englewood has just that for you. Now, Englewood, it's not for everyone. Some people don't like Englewood because it's got that old Florida feel, but some people love that, and I think it's like it grows on you at the beginning. We didn't know what to think of it either, especially coming from Wisconsin. We didn't really know what to think of it, and now we love it. It's a small beach town, very rustic, very old Florida, and it just feels like you're on an island somewhere.
It's got a very unique charm too,
Yes.
because of that, when you put the beach in with that. I think another thing to note is there's a couple great areas to hang out in Englewood. You've got Dearborn Street, which is their like main downtown, I guess you could say. And there's a lot of, little shops and restaurants, but a cool thing about that is like just going on the side roads, there's a lot of housing options that you could potentially purchase within walking distance of that aren't going to cost you the kind of price you're looking at on Venice Island, or being really close to the Welland Park downtown, or Sarasota's downtown for sure. So that's kind of cool. And in that Dearborn Street area, they've got one of the biggest farmers markets we've ever seen in like a small town. Like it's huge. There's just tons of vendors there. And then you've also got kind of a downtown just across from the beach by the main Englewood beach, which is cool because you could just walk across the street and there's lots of like tiki hut style bars and restaurants and things like that, and a few little beach shops and stuff like that. It's a really fun area, and it's pretty lively at night too.
Yes, they always have live music going on, especially during the winter and all the snowbirds that are here. Also, they have a playground and a basketball court. There is a walkway, so if you don't want to get all sandy, you can walk on the wooden walkway. There's also a golf cart shuttle that takes you from restaurant to restaurant, and even from one end of the island to another. It is free, but tips are appreciated, and it is pretty cool. That was one of the first things we did when we visited Englewood, and it was a pretty cool experience. Felt like we were on vacation.
I think another thing to note with Englewood is their beaches are somewhat similar to Venice in that you can find a lot of prehistoric shark's teeth and seashells, which is neat. And they're probably some of the quietest beaches in all of Florida, really. I mean, they're a little bit more rustic and nature-centric, not as quite as big of the crowds and things like that. Englewood Beach does get a little bit of traffic. Then in the middle, you got Blind Pass Beach, which is like, since there's a bridge on each end of the island and it sits in the middle, not as many people go there, so it's even quieter. But also on the north end, Minnesota Key Beach is pretty quiet as well, even though it is pretty close to a bridge. But if they build that connection road on Welland Park, one of the first communities we were talking about, that might bring a little bit more traffic to that area. So I guess we'll see what happens. The next area, and this one's very enticing for some very specific reasons, is Northport. Northport sits more inland and south of Sarasota, but a little bit further north than Englewood. And it's a little bit got more of like a quiet rural suburban feel. It's kind of like a mix in between the two. And the biggest draw, I think, of all of them is it's the most affordable. I mean, for a lot of people, like they want to have access to the beaches in Venice and Sarasota and Englewood and be near Welland Park. Well, technically Welland Park is like Northport. There's always a big online argument. I'm sure we'll get comments on this video, but so it's kind of a Venice, Northport, Englewood area, Welland Park is, but Northport itself, like it feels sort of separate. Like you go over a river, the Mayaca, and it feels like it's a separate city, but it is a little bit quieter and a lot more affordable than everywhere else on this list.
Especially for families, you can get a pretty decent big home in Northport for around mid 300,000s. There is a lot of new construction too on scatter lots, so big homes, brand new homes that you can find. They do also have like mobile homes and apartments. So if you don't want to buy, there is apartments for rent, townhomes, single family homes, villas.
Yeah, by and large though, mostly single family homes in the area. And you're generally going to get a little more house for your money, a little bit newer houses for the most part in most of Northport.
A bigger lot too, so a bigger backyard if you do have a family. And you're still very close to the Welland Park area, so the downtown there. But Northport does have a lot of shopping on 41 Tamiami Trail. Lots of shopping, lots of different restaurant options. You're not very far from Port Charlotte, which also has a lot of shopping and different restaurant options. Fort Myers, it's also about a 35 to 45 minute drive, depending on traffic.
And Port Charlotte's probably like 10 to 15 minutes, depending on what end. Well, Northport's pretty sprawling and big, but you're probably 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes to Port Charlotte, and they actually have a mall there.
And depending where you live in Northport, I mean, you can be Northport on one side and Port Charlotte on the other, and be like, you would be in Northport, but your neighbor could be in Port Charlotte. That's how close together they are. But yeah, Northport, it's a big area. That's why I think it takes so long to get you know, two different parts of Northport.
I think one other thing that's unique about Northport, it's very quiet and it's more rural. So like if you want a little more nature-centric vibe and just, you know, more grass, bigger yards, just more quiet in general, you're gonna like Northport for that, number one. But number two, it's also quieter in terms of traffic. Like Tamiami is like 3 lanes, 45 miles an hour both ways. But outside of that, just about any side road you go to, for the most part, there's not a lot of traffic on. So if, you know, traffic is a big deal for you and you don't want to deal with a lot of it, this is probably the best one on the entire list as far as that goes. I guess the gated communities, Lakewood Ranch, Welland Park aren't that bad either, but Northport just stands apart on that, I think. It just feels a lot more rural.
Yes, a lot more quieter. They also have the warm mineral springs, which it's very cool, and I've actually heard of people moving to Northport. I actually helped someone who watches our channel, and she'll probably know who she is. She bought in Northport because she wanted to be close to the warm mineral springs for, you know, all the benefits that her parents needed. So that's pretty cool that, you know, we have something like that in Northport, and it actually keeps warm. I believe it's like 85 degrees throughout the year Fahrenheit. So that's also pretty cool.
And the minerals are supposedly supposed to be like rejuvenating for your skin and your body and all that kind of stuff. And I believe it's like the largest natural warm mineral springs in all the United States, maybe the world. Even if it's just the United States, that's pretty cool. I mean, take what you can get. If it's not the best in the world, at least it's the best in the United States. That's a win.
Like Northport has a pretty cool water park, which is pretty close to the high school. So if you do have children and are planning to move your family down to Florida, that's another thing to consider, just because not a lot of the areas, like Venice is a little more retiree friendly, while Northport it's a little more family friendly.
Yeah, and the water slide there is huge.
Yes.
We should go on it sometime, honestly. It looks really, really big. And I think one other thing to note with Northport, and really every of these areas that we've covered, they're known for being low crime, good schools. You know, you can look up the ratings online. This isn't our personal opinion. This is just based on the data. So, you know, you can't really go wrong with any of these areas in terms of that. So if that's, you know, a question you have, there's your answer. But as always, there's more resources online like niche.com, great
Area
schools,
vibes.
area vibes. They'll give you a little bit more information on that kind of stuff.
As always, if you are looking to buy or sell a home in the area, make sure to call, text, or email our team, 941-221-1897.
Whether you're looking to move in the next few days or the next few months, we'll always have your back. We hear from people all the time and we love it.
If you want to learn more about any of these areas, we'll have multiple links in the description box below with playlists to all of the different cities we mentioned in this video.
And to learn more about the cities, make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications because we'll have more videos coming in the future about them. Hit the like button and live breezy.